Good evening and welcome to the Co-Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist. I'm Ulrike McGregor and I'm delighted to see everyone here tonight again in person, and I also welcome everyone who might be joining us on the live stream. This is the second of 4 Advent reflections on Scripture through works of art. Tonight's 3 paintings are based on readings we have heard during the last week. Our first painting of the evening was created by Breton Riviere in 1872. It is Daniel in the Lion's Den, based on the passage from the book of Daniel with the same title. During the 34th week of the liturgical year C, which just finished the last Sunday, we hear multiple readings from the book of Daniel. This particular passage was read in the wider world and the Catholic community on Thanksgiving, when the church in the US can choose a different reading, so that's why we might have missed it. This painting emphasizes Daniel's serene faith and the powerful yet subdued presence of the lions. We will also briefly look at the second version, or kind of an extension of this painting by Riviere, which he painted 18 years later. Our second painting, The Triumph of Christianity over Paganism, is a large oil on canvas painting by the French artist Gustave Doré, created in 1868. This painting beautifully connects the end of the liturgical year and the beginning of Advent by symbolizing the triumph of Christ's coming and his victory over darkness. The third and last work of this evening is The Return of the Dove to the Ark, created in 1851 by John Everest Millais. He was one of the founding members of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, which I will refer to in more detail later on. This painting encapsulates the central message of Advent. It is a season of waiting in great anticipation of the coming of Jesus Christ, a moment of spiritual cleansing and new life. And I put the Pre-Raphaelite box up there because they only lasted for 5 years, so I couldn't give them a whole lot of space on the time scale. Now I would like to turn to our topic of our introduction for the evening, namely pigments. Some of you may remember our recent discussion of the painting by Fra Angelico, which was filled with saints dressed in beautiful and brilliant colored garments. And there was a question here that was, how was the artist able to create all these and this wide variety of colors? And I answered the question briefly then, but today I would like to explore this topic in more depth. So, what is a pigment? A pigment is a chemical compound that gives a substance or organism its color. In painting, pigments are coloring agents mixed with a binder or a solvent, and a solvent in most cases, to make paint. For millennia, pigments were primarily natural materials, so ground earth, minerals, plants, or animal-based substances, combined with a binder such as saliva, egg yolk, animal fat, or plant oils such as linseed or walnut oil. If we look back 15, 20, or even 30,000 years, humans were already using pigments to create the earliest surviving artworks. Images that are both beautiful and to beautify their world and to express their thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Early artists had access to only a very small number of pigments, typically sourced from their immediate environment. In this cave painting, 3 different pigments were used. It was carbon black, which comes from burned wood or burned bones. It was red ochre, which is iron oxide that's trapped into clay or dirt, and they were then grind down, and they would use the pigments, and then again they would mix them with oil or fat from animals or use saliva, and then chalk, which is calcium carbonate, and that could be found in their environment as well. And so they use that to create these works of art. Over the centuries, artists discovered additional pigments suitable for the use on various surfaces. In the ancient world, as seen in this Pompeian fresco, artists had access to additional reds, yellows, greens, and whites. They also, for the first time, had discovered pigments for the color purple and blue. The finest and most treasured blue pigment, besides Egyptian blue and azurite, was made from lapis lazuli, a semi-precious stone which was mined for over 6,000 years in the Koksha Valley of Afghanistan, transported first to Egypt and later to Europe. Its powdered form became known as ultramarine, a name reflecting both its deep blue color and its distant exotic origin. Ultramarine began to be used in paintings sometime after 500 AD. During antiquity, the available color palette expanded from roughly 5 to around 15 pigments. And so there is kind of our answer to the question that I started with. The painting by Fra Angelico was created in the 15th century. So he had a number of pigments available to him. And then in addition, he would mix some of the pigments, or when he was using them on the gesso, the prepared surface, he also could overlay them and kind of create differences and different shimmers and different effects. Something I would like to point out with all these pigments is that the use of pigments came with dangers. Many of the pigments, especially whites and yellows, were lead-based or derived from toxic metals. So I kind of added their toxicity, so they had to be very careful in using these pigments. And it's known or understood that several artists, including Caravaggio, Vincent van Gogh, and Francisco Goya, are believed to have suffered poisoning from prolonged exposure to these materials. During the Renaissance, only a handful of new pigments were discovered, but 2 major changes transformed the art world. The first one was the use of oil as a binder. Oil paint gradually replaced egg tempera in Western art during the 15th century. Its slower drying time allowed for richer colors, smoother blending, and greater luminosity. One of the earliest and most influential examples is Jan van Dyck's Arnolfini portrait, which we see here. It was created in 1434, which showcases the remarkable detail, light effects, and surface textures made possible by this new oil binder. And it is a remarkable, beautiful painting. Again, if you think of it, this was 1434. It is really the prototype of oil paintings. It is still on oil. The oil is still used on wood, and I come to this. But these details, they're so beautiful. It's almost you can feel the ruffles on the garment of the woman. Egg tempera, the dominant medieval binder, dried quickly and required meticulous small strokes, producing opaque matte surfaces. The transition to oil was gradual. Artists often used combinations, so they used tempera underpaintings with oil glazes before oil fully took over. The second major change in the art world was the transition from wood panels as support, as an example here, to canvas. This shift began in 15th century Venice, where the humid climate caused wooden panels to warp and frescoes to prematurely deteriorate. Canvas, made from sailcloth, offered a lighter, more durable, and more affordable support. It soon spread through Europe and remains the standard surface for painting today. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th century sparked the invention of synthetic pigments, greatly expanding the artist's palette. Colors that were once rare, expensive, or unstable became widely available, affordable, and vibrant. And this slide just shows an overview of the progressive increase in all the pigments that were discovered and developed throughout the ages. So prehistory, we have a couple here. Antiquity, they really did quite an expansion on the pigments. But then, yeah, really the greatest expansion of available pigments was through the industrial period and contemporary times. And then here, we see it all come together. The painting by George Seurat, created at the height of the Impressionism in the late 19th century, exemplifies the explosion of color made possible by synthetic pigments. The work, now housed at the Art Institute of Chicago, is a celebration of the era's newfound chromatic possibilities. Following this brief introduction about the history of pigments, I will now turn to our first painting of tonight, which is Daniel in the Lion's Den, which was created by Breton Riviere in 1872. And as I introduce the artist, you can follow along on the handout. Breton Riviere lived from 1840 until 1920, during the height of the Victorian era in Great Britain. The Victorian era was a time of vast political reform and social change. The Industrial Revolution, the railway, shipping, and economic booms, and the rapid and profound scientific discovery. For example, with the invention of the first telephone and the first telegraph. This was the period of empire building and the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species. Riviere's love of art came from his parents. His mother was a still life painter, and his father trained at the Royal Academy of Arts and later exhibited his work there. Riviere studied drawing and painting at the Drawing Academy at Cheltenham College and the University of Oxford. Riviere himself became a member of the Royal Academy of Arts. Early in his career, when Riviere began to exhibit at the Royal Academy, his work would go unnoticed. However, that changed in 1869 when he exhibited the work The Long Sleep. This painting, showing the passing of an elderly gentleman in his fireside chair with his two dogs trying to awaken him, pulled at the heartstrings of the viewers and was an immediate popular success with the Victorian art lovers. It was to be his first work of many which featured animals and their owners, intertwined with a sense of pathos. Riviere was a technically sophisticated and talented artist who became best known for his animal paintings. In the 1870s, Riviere began to exhibit classical and religious paintings. Two of his masterworks, Daniel and the Lion's Den and Daniel's Answer to the King from 1890, depicted the biblical prophet. Riviere's works are praised for their naturalistic and anatomical accuracy in portraying the lions, but with an added focus on the psychology and spiritual tension of the scene. The painting emphasizes Daniel's serene faith and the powerful yet subdued presence of the lions. As you consider our first work of art of the evening, I will quote from the book of Daniel, chapter 6, verse 16. Daniel was thrown into the den of lions. The king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you faithfully serve, deliver you." And with this, I would like to invite any comments, maybe of anyone of you. Michael likes to go.
I have several thoughts right away, as usual, but I'll open with this one. The light, the way the light is treated. Daniel stands in the light, and where the lions are facing him, they reflect the light in a way. And then the further away from Daniel and his God, we have to assume, it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a metaphor for the presence of God, I would view it.
Yes, yeah. We kind of had that 2 weeks ago with the light of the child. I think the artists like to use that a lot. Where God is, there's light. And we will talk about that more in the second painting as well. Yes.
This is probably because we're cat owners, but the expressions on the lions' faces are so different.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that haven't gotten the memo yet. They're thinking that we're going to get this guy. And you look at the male one in the front, the one who's down a little lower, he knows, okay, this meal's not happening. The one just to the other side, he just looks kind of blue.
Oh, this one, yes.
Yeah.
This one, yeah.
But you got a couple that are still growling, so it's just
Yeah.
it's a wave that hasn't hit all of them yet.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true of us too.
Yeah, I think that was going to be one of my questions, what you think of the different responses of the lions to the presence of Daniel in their den too. So I think that's interesting how different the expressions are.
Some are just curious. One is, the one on the left I would say is just curious. The one in the middle is mesmerized.
Yeah, this one, isn't it?
Yeah.
He is absolutely mesmerized.
The one on the far right is sort of submissive, sort of cowering in submission in my eye. So.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
What strikes me is this is a sort of about leadership in the animal kingdom, that the Lion King in the middle is looking at Daniel and trying to figure out what's going on here and what it's all about, and the rest are subservient to him and waiting to see his signal.
Mm-hmm. So if he would strike, then they kind of would change their attitude?
Yeah, for sure. He's the leader. He's the Lion King.
Yeah.
There's also an aspect of Daniel's calm that doesn't incite the animals, because if he was if he was fearful or terrified, he would give off chemical that says fear, and then the animals would take that as an opportunity for his demise. But they're just, as your description of it, so curious, and just sort of waiting in awe. I think there's a lot of awe in the animals, and they're coming from their created nature, and kind of maybe feeling a new aspect of that, because usually they're just feeding their animal hunger, but there's something else happening there.
Yep. Is it over here in the front?
Well, I was going to say, I really liked what you said about the calmness, and there's sort of in his pose, there's both like an aspect of power, but also submission. Like he's stood very straight, and the light, as you said, is coming from behind him and coming from like a divine presence, but his head is also bowed, and we see his like very vulnerable back of the neck. It's like there's a very interesting tension that we see in him, and then also with the lions too.
Yeah. However, and it's hard to see, probably they are bound. So his hands are bound in the back.
And it looks like there's a nice chewed-on femur right in front.
Which kind of also shows they're not always calm. So this is the presence of Daniel, which is setting a different precedence. Yeah. And I think the kind of calmness, and it's no drama. So Daniel didn't come in there with the motion, I have to fight for my life. He came with his belief and with his inner strength, and he believing in God, that God will protect him from whatever comes his way. So I think that's very beautiful. And I'm so glad that I finally could show you the painting. I have come across this a long time ago, and I always wanted to show it. And so finally, in the year C, week 34, it was perfect that I could finally show this. I would like to just jump. So 18 years later, Revere painted a second version of this painting. And I kind of have this. And this is kind of in the book of Daniel, it's kind of the next story is the king had to place Daniel into the lion's den because he had put out a decree that for 30 days no one but the king could be glorified. However, Daniel had refused that, and he continued to pray to his God 3 times a day. And so the king, even though he liked Daniel a lot, he had to put him into the lion's den. However, the next morning, the king came to the lion's den and was calling for Daniel, not really knowing what happened. So this is kind of the next morning scene where Daniel then answers the call of the king, and he says, I'm alive. My God has protected me. And I thought that was just a nice extension of the original painting. Now again, I mean, even more so now, he's actually looking into the light. God's light is shining on him. And again, this calmness. I mean, by now the lions are not even, I don't think there's any one of the lions who seems to be aggressive towards Daniel. Kind of having received that sense that there's a higher presence with them that night. So, yes. Any other thoughts? Anything someone would like to say or to share, reflect on?
it's interesting to see this view where the other one, the light, Daniel, was, like turned 180 compared to this. And it looks like from the mechanics, they basically slid people down that left side.
Uh-huh.
And Daniel had just gotten, down on his feet in the previous picture and was praying. His head was down in that, and now he's looking up where the king would have thrown him down, and he's, talking to the king. Now, the other thing that struck me was it looks like the aging of the paint has cracked, but the aging of the cracks in the back almost look like ghosts. They're little body shapes against the wall.
I see that what you're saying, kind of up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
I've been interested in the lions, of course, and the dominant lion, like in the last painting, was, mesmerized. And now I think, and that one also, but this even more, the lions are believers. I feel like they might be, those of us who have struggled and come from different places and yet now are, seeing the light. And he has gone from mesmer to an open-eyed wonder. And the others are all that calmness, like you pointed out. So I think that's also part of what good Christian people can do, can help others come to believe.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
I was looking at the difference between the Lion King stance in this image here, in this painting, and the one previous. Because in the one previous, the lion, here he's like, he looks like he's going to advance, but not with aggression, but he's moving forward.
Uh-huh.
In the one previous, he was like backed off.
Uh-huh.
It was quite different. And see there, he's backed off face to face.
His weight is tilted backwards a
To
little
the
bit.
back. Yeah, his balance is in the back. It's like he's come to a stop and going, whoa, what is this? But Daniel is looking, they're facing each other. And then in the next one, Daniel has his back to him. But the Lion King is moving, still looks like he's going forward. But we don't know how far he'll go. From this, we say, no, he's going to stop. But he doesn't have aggression in him. But it's the opposite. They're juxtaposed there. And here Daniel's facing, again, head down. There, his back is to the lions and looking up. So just quite different.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of like that, to see multiple works by the same artist. We have done that. There was a painting by Caravaggio when he meets and has dinner with the two apostles in Emmaus. And that's also a fascinating comparison between the two paintings. They're painted 10, 12 years apart. He's in a very different position in his life, in his situation. And so it's kind of interesting to see and do kind of a compare and contrast between these paintings. But there's much more to discuss and to talk about, but we should move on to our second painting, and I will leave you with this question. Do I, in my life, like Daniel, continue to have faith in God's redemption? Our second painting tonight is The Triumph of Christianity over Paganism, painted in 1868 by the French artist Paul Gustave Duret. And as I introduce the artist, you can again follow on the handout. Paul Gustave Duret, born in Strasbourg, France, on January 6, 1833, was the most celebrated book illustrator of the mid-19th century, and was also active as an engraver, painter, and sculptor. From an early age on, he demonstrated exceptional artistic talent. Doré applied his considerable abilities across a wide range of genre, from satire to historic painting, producing monumental canvases, as well as more intimate works, flamboyant watercolors, virtuoso ink washes, incisive pen and ink drawings, imaginative illustrations, and sculptures that could be humorous, monumental, or enigmatic. Exceptionally prolific, Doré at one point employed more than 40 wood engravers. His best known achievements include his lavishly illustrated editions of major liturgy classics, among them Dante's Inferno, Don Quixote, and the Holy Bible, which did much to popularize large format illustrated books in Europe. His style is typically rich and exuberant, informed by a pronounced vein of grotesque fantasy. Although he adopted a more somber and realistic manner for his illustration to London, A Pilgrimage in 1872, a work that depicted the harsh conditions of the urban poor and was admired by artists such as Vincent van Gogh. Doré's capacity to work extended well beyond illustration. He produced numerous paintings, including several large religious compositions, like this one, that became major attractions at the Doré Gallery on New Bond Street in London, which operated from 1868 to 1892. Examples of these works are now housed in the Petit Palais in Paris. In the 1870s, he turned to sculpture. His most notable contribution in this medium was the erection in Paris in 1883 of a monument to the French dramatist and novelist Alexandre Dumas, author of The Three Musketeers and Count Monte Cristo. Doré never married, and following the death of his father in 1849, he continued to live with his mother until his death of a heart attack in Paris on January 23rd, 1883. As we consider our second work of art of this evening, I will again quote from the book of Daniel, on this occasion from chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. As the visions during the night continued, I saw one like a son of man coming on the clouds of heaven. He received dominion, glory, and kingship. Nations and peoples of every language served him. And just to, so this is a large painting. On the handout, I converted it to inches, so it's 2 meters by 3 meters. So it is quite a large work of art. And so, what is your eye drawn to? Any figures we recognize? Any particular division?
Well, of course, you're just taken aback by the color and the movement, but thinking back on the last scene, the last paintings with Daniel, we were looking in at that, but we weren't there, right? And here, this is coming for us, right? It's pulling us in, that light, almost like a fire. And then the other thing, I just peering at I don't
Yes.
often see
And I have one, so I kind of cut it in half.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't often see the angels with swords. And I found that very powerful, very striking.
Yeah.
This is just a pitch for the Michaels in the audience, but the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, where, you know, a third of the angels are swept to the sky and cast down to earth. Those are the two mentions of Michael in the Bible. And I think that angel at the forefront is probably Michael, who's, you know, keeping the evil, you know, in its place, in its realm. I'll make another comment because the last one was kind of self-serving. But in the group that are cast down, that are condemned, you can see a lot of sort of Greek god figures. Like there's Zeus or Jupiter in the middle, and he's been given like an animal head, I think. You know, like, and then there's a cow down there. I don't know if that's a golden calf or something.
Yeah, I
it
think
looks
so.
almost like someone's riding it. Maybe it's hard to tell. But
Yeah,
and
there's
then
a
on the right is maybe Mercury or Aries. I don't know. Mars.
Yeah, there's a crown falling. One of the human kings didn't. Yeah.
When I look at the top part, I want to be comforted, but I find it a little terrifying at the same time. And I can't decide which mood I'm in. I mean, it's beautiful, but the Revelation story certainly can be, you know, and the thought that it could happen at any time that anyone's called. But yeah, I can't decide which way I'm feeling about all of that.
Yeah.
I'm just moved by the sheer numbers. The deeper you go, the more angels there are in the vastness of the army, you know, to overcome. It just goes on forever.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly where it is that Jesus says, and I saw Satan fall like lightning from the sky. And there's the bolt, the lightning bolt, and then there's Satan laid out on it almost looks like human sacrifice in the lower part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's not a calming painting like we've seen before. I mean, there is a lot going on, and it is, I think in the Bible sometimes, first of all, every time we see an angel, what is the response of someone seeing an angel? Because the angel has to say, don't be afraid. So again, in our today time, we think angels are putties, they're cute. But I don't think that's necessarily how the church understood an angel. An angel comes with great light. They come with great force. And also, if we remember the scene when the shepherds are in the field and they are being notified that Jesus Christ has been born, there's an army of angels. Again, it's kind of what you were saying. There's not just a few. I mean, it's an army of angels, and they are fighting for Christianity. So, yes.
But Jesus is the eye of the storm. I mean, he has calmness, and all of this is swirling around, and that is peace. So that's interesting.
Michael, go ahead.
The other thing is, it looks like it's almost like a tunnel. And the angelic host are forming almost like a tunnel with the light at the end of it. And I'm thinking of people who have near-death experiences, who feel like they went through a dark tunnel toward a light, and then some of them want to stay, and they say, no, you've got more to do on earth, and they send them back, and that kind of thing. You know, it's a vision of the heavenly realm or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we look at the... Oh, yes, please. No, you go ahead.
I'm just struck
I'm
by-
filling the space.
Yeah, I'm just struck by what you said when you're looking at, and sometimes you can feel it, that it seems like the power of evil in the world is just overwhelming. And then you look at the top half of this, it's got nothing. I mean, that's where the power truly is, and that's more reassuring. But and when you put them right next to each other, it's disarming.
I'm just wondering, do we know, he was obviously a commercial success with his engravings and his books.
Mhm.
Was he a commercial success onto large format paintings and sculpture as well?
I have to presume a little bit. I think he made most of his money with his illustrations. These paintings, because something like this, that's definitely a one-off. And since it's in the 19th century, and I haven't seen anything that it was necessarily a commission, he might have just painted it and then it was sold. He would get a good amount of money for it, but in Duré's case, his main income were all the painting, the illustrations for the books, for the series, and then later the sculptures. But then again, they were kind of more one-offs. But he was incredibly prolific. I mean, it's unbelievable. I kind of looked him up. All the books that he illustrated, there's not just one illustration in there. I mean, there's dozens, like in the Holy Bible that he published in the mid of the in 19th century. I think there's 100 illustrations in there. I mean, it's magnificent. Michael?
I know I have an book, The Imitation of Christ, and it's illustrated with his work. Like this top half that we're seeing now is one page in it, the Church Triumphant, that sort of thing, so he did a lot of illustrations, but a lot of it was also for religious publications as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think it's exactly kind of what everyone. Oh, sorry. Please. Did you?
So Jesus is obviously, Jesus could be presented as resurrected, but this is the triumph of the cross in the way he's depicted there, which is just very different from the other gods that were below.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the orderly formation of the angel ready to fight, and kind of the chaos down below. They're falling apart. They probably have infights. They're fighting each other. So there's no unity. But I think the upper half truly shows there's a unity between them. They're fighting for the same goal, which is to expand Christianity. And I love someone said, you think evil is bad, but just look at this. If we could really believe this, right? How strong is God, and where can he lead us if we really follow this light? But again, a wonderful painting. I would like to move on to our third one, and I leave you with the question for this painting is: do we trust that Christ's light will overcome evil in my life? So now it is time to explore our third and last painting of the evening, The Return of the Dove to the Ark, created by John Everett Millay in 1851. And once more, if you would like to follow on the handout, if that's helpful. John Everett Millay, born on June 8, 1829, was an English painter, portraitist, and illustrator. He was a child prodigy who, aged 11, became the youngest student to enter the Royal Academy of Art. In 1848, together with Dante Gabriel Rossetti and Holman Hunt, Millet founded the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was a group of young British painters who banded together to express a new moral seriousness and sincerity in their works, inspired by Italian art of the 14th and 15th centuries. Their adoption of the name Pre-Raphaelite expressed their admiration for Italian painting before the High Renaissance and the time of Raphael. Although the Brotherhood's active life lasted not quite 5 years, its influence on painting, the decorative arts, and interior design was profound. In the 1850s, however, after his marriage to Effie Gray, with whom he had 8 children, Millet moved away from the brilliantly colored, minute detailed Pre-Raphaelite manner to a broader and more fluent way of painting. His subjects also changed to scenes that met the public demand of sentiment and a good story. Many of them featured children whom he painted with great affection, often modeling them on his own family. These later works were enormously successful, making Millet one of the wealthiest artists of his day. In 1885, he was created a baronet, and in 1896 was elected president of the Royal Academy, but died shortly thereafter from throat cancer in London. And as you consider Millet's painting either on the screen or in the handout, I will quote from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 44. So too, you also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come. And one more time, I invite your thoughts, reflections on this particular work. Maybe just I give a little bit of background. So this is supposed to be the stepdaughters of Noah. And Noah had sent out on the ark, and he has sent out the dove to see if the water of the flood had gone away, and life was possible on earth again. And so the dove has come back, and it brought with it a twig of an olive tree, so as a sign that the water had gone away and that life had started on the earth again. So.
I didn't see that twig, so thank you.
So there we go.
I was kind of thinking that you're kissing the dove. Don't you want the dove to go away and stay away? Because that means everything's fine. But then you can see that this dove had brought hope to this young woman, and then it's much more understandable.
Yeah.
The
So.
emotion of the moment.
I'm just enjoying staring at it. I mean, it could be a photograph. Look at those faces, and I wonder if those were his daughters, and then...
I believe those are her stepdaughters.
Okay.
Maybe. Someone can help me out with that, but
yeah, it's
yes.
just amazing. And then, of course, the pigments. Look at those colors.
Yeah. Just since the introduction was pigments, I thought, thinking about across the 3 paintings we looked at, the first one was a kind of a darker palette. There weren't any strong colors in it. The second one, we kind of had everything in there. I think this one is very beautiful. It's we have kind of a dark green, which is kind of a sign for hope, for new life. I think so. Millet was probably also playing with that when he dressed the girls, a purple for perfect for the time of Advent, penance, suffering, and then the white also kind, I would say, for hope. Yes.
And then the whole sense of Advent with Noah and the water subsiding and waiting for the water to subside, and then to see the affection of this young girl for a sign of life. So it's a beautiful picture. Yeah, the purple for sure, but the whole kind of acknowledgement of waiting, which is such a focus for Advent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Advent's one of my favorite times of year because it always makes me try to think about the whole concept of waiting, because as my personality, I'm a fretter and a worrier, and I'm the parent of young adults, and you find yourself waiting. Oh, is this going to happen for them? Or I wish it was this time ahead because maybe we'd know about, a goal or something. And then all that time passes, there's all these beautiful experiences within, and if you're always looking ahead and fretting, which is my nature, you miss things. So I almost like Advent better than Christmas sometimes, because I just try to really slow down and listen to the silence of it, and that painting kind of reminds me a little bit of that waiting time, trying to get better at it.
Yes.
Speaking of pigment, we're all struck by these very sweet young girls. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Sorry. Their cheeks, I mean, look at the way their skin tones are so realistic, and the sweet pink of a young girl's cheeks, that perfect picture of health that these two emit, and the serenity that they both emit. At first, I wasn't sure when I first saw it. Of course, the girl kissing the dove is just emits peacefulness and love. The other one, I thought, what's going on here? But as I look in the close-up, I see that she's also very serene, but she's having lots of thoughts, I feel like.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. The girls respond to the return of the dove very differently. Yes, I think the girl standing here, and she's more looking at the olive branch, and I think her gaze falls more onto the olive branch, and maybe thinking of the future. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe there is life out there. We can maybe return and start a life again. And my feeling was the second girl, she's so happy for the dove just to return, for this loving embrace, and maybe for the waiting to be over. That life will move on, but I think their thought processes are slightly different in their heads. Oh, Martha and Mary, yes, yeah.
You made the point about green being sort of a symbol of hope or new life, and the one girl to me sort of exemplifies that. To me, the other is purity. And if you think of the purity or virginity and white go together, or purity and white, if you think of the story of Noah and the ark, the people who were on the ark who were preserved were the ones who were good people, and the rest of the world was very sinful and needed to be destroyed in the eyes of God, that sort of thing. So it's kind of hope and purity and new life, are the two images here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes.
Marika, I'm struck by the change in style of Millet.
Uh-huh.
the pre-Raphaelite, brotherhood were characterized by sort of voluptuous women with amazing hair and beautiful clothes. And one scene never forgotten, those early brotherhood pictures. And so he marries, he has 8 children, and this is a much more real, natural kind of beauty. He can't give up the red hair, though.
Yeah, no, they loved red hair. And as Chris said, once you've seen the paintings, you always recognize a pre-Raphaelite painting. Yes, I think just to kind of, we have 1 more minute to kind of, this really encapsulates the waiting, the hope that something comes. And waiting can be a long time. In Noah's case, it was 40 days while the ark was on the water, but then also it took time to the water to recede. So again, this Advent time, I think that's why we hear the reference to Noah's ark. First of all, there's destruction, so to get rid of the old and bring in the new. But also it takes time. Nothing happens instantaneously. We have to prepare ourselves to be ready to accept Jesus Christ, our Savior. So yes, I would like to conclude this evening with the following question. Are we aware that we may be called from this earthly life at any time? And thank you very much, and I hope to see you all next week, next Thursday. Thank you.